Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. I'm Mom.
And I'm Mac.
This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Disclaimers for adult language and spoilers. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. It's going okay. I took the day off today because, I'm going to see a friend next week. And I thought at one point it was going to be this week. And then I just kept the day off. So I just went to Target and, man, I know everybody's in their own world, but the amount of people that will just take up the whole entire aisle, and then I don't know, there's one aisle, aisle 31. That's where you got to line up for the pharmacy. Some lady was just parking her big ass in her big cart, right there. And I just and then it just kept happening. It just kept happening. People, I would just try to slip on through, and then there would just be somebody having people apparently just know everyone, and they would just be talking, now taking up 2 aisles or something. And it's dog, listen, I'm so happy that you saw your friends. That's really cool. I'm so happy for you. But I already don't want to be around people. And now I'm annoyed. And then I don't like being annoyed because I don't want to feel like a misanthrope. So then I'm oh, well, they're just going about their day. But then I'm just grumbling all the way back to my car.
Yeah, but I think there's also a common courtesy about being aware of your space and the objects and people around it.
And some people just don't have it. And it's so nice when people do. When we were at the Korea Fest, there were so many nice people there that could see that we were confused and took the time out to direct us. That was lovely. That actually, that honestly was the best part to me, was how many nice people just were here's 2 people who need help. I'm just going to go help them right now.
Greensboro is very nice. The town I live in is very nice. It's my favorite place I've ever lived.
Aww.
And yeah, I think the people here are the nicest I've ever encountered.
Wow.
Yeah. Way nicer than where I used to live.
They people here, I don't know, it's a mixed bag. I think it's kind of weird because I don't start up a conversation with every service worker I encounter, but I do go to the grocery store basically every day. And then I just realized, I feel like I should feel at home in this grocery store, but actually all the employees there are very much not, I don't know. And at one point, okay, because here's a little story. I used Dad's number for it. And the first time I used his number for the rewards thing, they have his last name in there as Hate. And I thought that was funny. And then at one point, we're checking out and we give the lady our number and she's Hate? That's a crazy ass last name. And I was well, it's not actually that. It's, it's Hair. And she was yeah, we actually talk about that. We're always oh, Hate, that's such a crazy name. And then I was so struck, I've been going here for over a year and now y'all are just nobody's ever been hey, how are you doing? You're here every day. But now you're all laughing about my fake last name. And I then asked, I was well, can I change it? She's well, no, I can't do that. I don't know. So whenever Minerval and I, we go out for dinner every Friday, and old people just have no shame, they'll just openly gawk at you. We'll enter a building and just all these old white people are just staring slack-jawed at us, and it's can I help you? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I actually was wearing this shirt, I think. It says, "Be careful of who you hate. It could be someone you love." And I love this shirt because I love what it says, but it's also so soft. So I wear it a lot. And one day I was at a big box store and these old people were just staring at me. And I'm like, what? Like, what could it be?
Yeah.
And I finally decided maybe I look like somebody they know, but
Mm.
I was just like, it's so rude.
They think the world is their zoo, and that that's what I think. I
I
think
guess.
because it's never like, oh, hello, dearie. I was just looking and I thought you had. No, it's just drooling, like, you know, yeah. Again, I don't want to sound like I think I have a general positive outlook on the world. Like, actually, here's something. Went through the drive-thru at McDonald's, and there was a very, I'm just going to assume he was a very young man with like the snake bite piercings. And he just
Mm,
like gave me such a nice smile. And I always try to look people in the eye when I'm like, you know, it's a good practice for me, but also I remember being a service worker and just being treated like hot garbage. So I try to be like, thank you, have a nice day. And he just like gave me the nicest smile. And like, I have noticed this. I don't know if it's just if this is real or just either way, it's a nice perception, but like kind of like weirdo looking young people very much like show me a lot of like outward pleasantness. Um
yeah.
and I think young people in general, okay, I know I'm like not old, but you know what I mean when I say young people. Like, uh, I think they're genuinely nice. Like, I don't have the perception that that kids these days are nasty. I feel like they're mostly nice. And, but yeah, it's something that I've enjoyed about getting older is like teenagers, if they're kind of like alternative looking, I feel like they treat me really nicely. And I really
Yeah.
like that.
Well, probably they also, get gawked at and,
Yeah.
know how much that sucks. And yeah, it's, I think young people are great. I mean, I interact with young people at my job and, when people are like kids today, I'm just like, you sound like an old person, you
Yeah.
know.
And also, the thing that annoys me about kids today is as if it's the kids' fault,
Yeah.
as if it's like we should be saying parents today. Like, but all they did was just get dropped into this existence, and now you're blaming them for how you raised them? That's crazy.
Yeah, actually, this came up with a friend of mine. We both teach university age kids. And I got two emails. It's the end of the semester. In fact, like we're totally at the end for all my courses. I just have to like literally grade stuff and report grades, and I'm done. And so, of course, there's always one or two who are like, oh, I forgot to do this like major assignment. Could I do it now? Or, do you have an alternate assignment I could do to make up these points? And the answer is no. I mean, I
Yeah.
have six classes usually, so that's 180 kids. So, no, I can't make an exception for you. It's unfair.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't reply because I'm like, no. So they both emailed me back. I'm just following up on my previous email just to see if, I could get that extra assignment, extra dispensation. So I did a kind of passive aggressive thing and just sent a blast out to like these
Oh,
courses, and I was talking to my friend and she's like, yeah, we raised those people. We told them, use your words. They're using their words. And I'm like, the thing that annoys me is the follow up email. Like,
yeah.
can't you take a hint? I mean, don't
No.
you think at the end of the semester is like the very last time you should be asking for help?
Yeah.
But she's like, no. I mean,
No.
yeah. So she gets it. And she's right. We raised those people, so we shouldn't be surprised. But
Yeah. Like, but you know what I always never got as a former, well, okay, again, I know I'm still not even 30 yet, but But as a former person who interacted with adults who would be like, you young people, the amount of people that would just openly be like to my face, like, this is the problem with you millennials today. And I'd be like, what the fuck, man? Like, I just got here. Like the amount of old ass people who would be like, this is what's wrong with you guys. And it'd be something I've never done either. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
well, now I just don't like you. Like now,
Mhm.
now I'm thinking, you old ass people today, you all suck.
You all
And because
generalize.
you generalizing as old ass people, because again, kids now as a person who, 18-year-olds aren't older than me, they're all pretty nice. Like, and they're pleasant and they work really hard. And yeah, I only have good things to say. I sometimes interact with, we have a friend who has 3 kids. And actually, I realized while watching, Samara Weaving kind of looks like his youngest, who I like because she's very weird. And she always tries to make conversation with me, which I find very sweet. But sometimes I feel bad. Like, when you look back and you're like, why did I say that? I try not to do that with conversations with children because I'm like, I need to get over this. But I just was in like a weird mood last time I saw them, like just not in the mood to talk, I feel like. And she was just trying to make convo with me. And she was like, oh, is that a new tattoo? And I was like, no, it's old. And she just went, okay. It's like, oh no, I'm the adult. I need to be better.
I mean, you can't, sometimes you're just not in the mood to talk to people. It's just the way it is. I did a thing that I don't like it when people do it to me. And this person doesn't even know like I was just mad. I was mad about something. And this person was being cute with me and I did not play along. In fact, I was just like, what do you want? If I were a guy, this wouldn't even be.
Yeah, you would never
like
even.
it would never occur to me. I would never bring it up, but I'm not usually like that. And if someone did that to me, I'd be like, oh my God, what did I do? Or I'd be like, oh, they're just having a sucky day. I hope I'd do the second thing, but I'd probably do the first thing. So I was just like mad about something and he was sort of involved in this thing that I was mad about. But he got, he was in front of me, so he got it. And yeah, I haven't seen him around lately.
Not gonna talk to that lady.
Yeah. So it'll all be fine. Or, I'll be an adult and I'll say, the last time we interacted, I was a little short with you and it really wasn't you.
I bet you didn't even like.
That's true.
Because the amount of like.
Everybody. Yeah.
I get so much perspective when a friend will tell me like, oh my God, I'm so sorry when we hung out that I said that thing. And I'm like, what thing? Like, I feel like I'm a pretty perceptive person and I didn't even like, you're good. You're totally fine.
Yeah. Also, at the end of the year like this, everybody has like a ton of stuff to do. So everybody's just sort of, bummed out or stressed out or something. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. But if I do see this person, I'm going to make an apology. They'll probably say,
oh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about? What you said about like, if you were a man, you probably wouldn't think about this. I was just talking to Manermal about how men ain't shit. No offense, men. And I know what you're saying, Mac, whoa, you, Mr. He, him pronouns. Now, hey, listen, I had a different upbringing, so don't let me in with you folk. But I was just telling her like, you would be astounded at the things that we take for granted, like basic levels of human empathy that like people are just learning like right now. like it would shock you because you would think, well, that's crazy. Because to you, you'd be like, well, that I would have to actively choose to be rude to do such a thing. I know, but it's true. I don't know what happens. To to all the men out there trying their best, good. It's not even necessarily all your fault. Like, you know,
No, it's not their fault.
no, because how could you know what you were never taught? But yeah, because I was telling her, like, listen, when it comes to like a lot of heterosexual relationships, I was like, if a couple looks really great from the outside, odds are you have to thank the woman for a lot of that. Like, I think obviously men contribute, to the relationship too, but I think a lot of guys come out better than they went in, in a
Mm.
relationship with a woman. Not always true. Not always true. There's exceptions to the rule. But in my personal experience, they say men live longer if they have a wife.
Well, I think you're I don't know, Mac. I think you might be like smushing some things together here. I mean, first I want to push back a little bit. I am greatly improved as a person as a result of the man that I've been dating for
Okay, I
13
will push
years.
back on you. Your man is Gem.
Okay.
Again, there's
um,
exceptions to the rule.
yeah. Um I mean, and men living longer. I mean, men live longer if they're married. Yeah.
Well, I mean that I feel like, okay, if you're like a single lady out there, I've got some female friends who are straight single ladies, and they might look at a relationship and be like, "What a great guy! Why can't I get a great guy?" And my point to her was like, "It looks great, but I think even
Hmm.
the best of men need a little bit of help to get there."
I mean, okay, I think men need help in the way that we want. Okay, we're trained differently.
Yeah,
I mean, so there's that. And I think the thing that we get out of our social interaction is different than what men get out of a social interaction.
yeah,
Um, and so what we want from a man is basically to go against his training and be like us.
yeah,
And it's hard to find that and it's hard to cultivate that. So
yes.
if that's what you're saying, I guess I agree with you.
I'm not, listen, this is coming from, and I have gotten lucky in life. I found a gem. Um, but the stories that my female friends have told me, I'm like shocked at the levels of depravity some of these men go to. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like utterly shocked. And again, listen, I know there's some crazy bitches out there. I know there's some crazy girlfriends, you know. Before I transitioned, I was one such crazy girlfriend. So, I get it. But I have never heard such stories about girlfriends from my male friends.
Mm.
Like, just like utterly, like, these guys just treat, and we're talking women who are like 10 out of 10s, like the full package, beautiful, smart, funny, employed. And they're just like tossing them around like garbage. And that is what was shocking to me was I like when like my friends will tell me these things, I'm just like, okay, so what's their address? I'm gonna go take care of it. How could they have wronged my queen like this?
It's kind of funny because it kind of reminds me of the men in Ready or Not.
That's a great segue, mom.
So today, WoHos, we're talking about class warfare horror movies. And our first movie is Ready or Not. Here's the short plot summary from IMDb. A bride's wedding night takes a sinister turn when her eccentric new in laws force her to take part in a terrifying game. It was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, written by Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy, starring Samara Weaving, Queen, Adam Brody, Mark O'Brien, Elise Levesque, Nikki Guadagni, Harry Sersney, and Andy McDowell, also a queen. Cinematography by Brett Jutkowitz, edited by Terrell Gibson, and music by Brian Tyler. It was released on July 27th, 2019 at Fantasia and August 21st, 2019 in the US. It has a running time of 95 minutes. How did you feel about this runtime, Mac?
Mwah, chef's kiss. I mean, a movie's got to give me like a good reason to be longer than this. And I think this movie knew exactly how long it should be.
Yeah.
It's snappy.
Yeah. Both of the movies today are about 90 minutes. Yeah.
We love to see it. Have you ever known people like, okay, obviously this is a level of wealthy that quite literally, is demonic. So, but have you ever known a family that I guess felt like this, of like just so crazy wealthy that it was kind of like scary?
A couple of times I have encountered people like this. As a child, some of my classmates came from, a disgusting level of wealth. And when I used to do private tutoring and I would go into people's homes, sometimes I would just be astonished, and the kids would be like so cute, like, do you want to see our theater? Things like that. Sure. And you like go way, the houses are huge. And one kid I tutored, he lived basically on the side of a mountain. And I was just like,
oh my God,
what do you have to do to
That's
live
my
like
question.
this?
When I was a landscape designer, there were some houses I would go into, and I'm honestly thinking about all the time. Like, this house has stuck in my memory, and I'm pretty sure the husband was a lawyer. So, but even then, that doesn't tell the whole story. Now, having a friend who's a lawyer, I just kind of assumed that made her rich, but I learned that that was not the case. You have to be a particular kind of lawyer, and yeah, and actually going to those houses, and when I realized all my clientele were going to have to be these like disgustingly wealthy people, that, along with a lot of other things, soured me on the whole landscape design thing. And I was like, I'm good, because the people who are normal, they can't afford landscape design. And no, unless you are disgustingly wealthy, you will be shocked at how much it will cost. Because I would tell people, they'd tell me all these things, and I'd be like, all right, now we have to have a discussion. Do you have 100K lying around? Because that's actually what you need. And they would look so like, you're stupid, you're crazy, how could I ever? And I'm like, listen, I know, but I'm sorry. And then, but then other people, I'd give them the quote, and they'd be like, yeah, okay, sounds about right.
Yeah, I currently have two friends, I would say, who are pretty rich. One person's wealthy. I mean, I think, inherited her wealth, has like a 5,000 square foot house, and she's an artist. So it's like, okay. Like,
must be nice.
I know. I'm like, how can I get that gig? No, I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking about billionaires and stuff like that. And why don't they fucking improve the world? Like, I just don't get it.
Because then they wouldn't be able to exist. But
why do you, like, especially if you're like a multi-billionaire, like, what? There's no way you could ever spend your money, and there's no way your kids could ever spend your fortune. So why?
I think to get there, unless you are such an inheritor that had no part to play in your old money, if you get to billionaire status, you've already signed away like your soul, because you can't possibly earn that much on your own. It has to be off of the backs of others. So if you're such a person, you don't give a shit. And
Yes.
I think something happens to their brains. I think they get I think something occurs in there, and they just I don't know. I haven't met
I
one,
don't
so
know. I've never met a billionaire. I've met a couple millionaires, but I mean, it just seems like there's a certain level of like I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, and I'm fine. I don't have any kind of desire to make any more.
that's what
I,
shocked me about getting a job. I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like, and now I know I don't have any kids. I feel like it is scary to think if I had a child, I think I would be actively in poverty. But as a dual income household with no children, I'm like, what do we need? Like, what do I need right now? Like, I can get on a plane and like I have money locked away to go take a trip. Like I don't know, what do I need? I'd like a house, but besides that, I just don't even know.
it's a funny feeling. I didn't actually ever think I would have this feeling. I just did my taxes, a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Yep, this is the most I've ever made," and I'm really fine. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I have kids, but they're adult kids. I don't have any in my house. And I just have this cat that I take care of, and same thing. If I want to take a trip, I can. And if I want to go out to eat, I can. I mean, I don't know.
I think
I don't want to I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want my roof to cave in or something like that.
oh, you got money.
Oh, I see.
Not anymore.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Exactly.
and that's I guess that's the scary thing is we also we have it now, but the way the kind of money I make, it's like if such a catastrophic thing were to happen, it wouldn't take much, I guess, for me to then be in squalor, which is scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think
But I
you'd
mean,
be
if you think
okay.
about like if
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
unable to work, like
Hmm.
that, knock on wood, that's the stuff I get scared about where I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, I went into one girl's house once in high school. I tell this story to like absolutely everybody 10 times over. So I probably have already said it on the podcast too. But like growing up, my friend Layla, she lived in like a rich area, but there was always this one row of mansions that I remember from my childhood being like, those houses are crazy. And then come high school, this girl let us come over to her house for a group project and I got to go on the biggest house on that row and I was even just telling it feels like a fever dream. Like it was the kind of like MTV Cribs had all one time like when she showed us she was like here's all our cars um just garage full of cars, circle driveway. She called her mom by her first name. Double staircase. Her room, it feels crazy to say this, but I feel like her room was as big as the apartment we lived in at the time. And I
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, there was no part of me that could like her. I mean, she was also kind of a like, no, undoubtedly is a Trump supporter. But like, I like, I guess when we get to the platform, we'll talk about it. But it is kind of true though that when you're around such a person, you do kind of hate him a little bit. Like I'm not even
Hmm.
jealous of you. It's just more like, fuck you. Like it just feels wrong. Like sometimes I feel with the wealth disparity in America, like sometimes I feel like, why do I ever complain? Like, oh, I can, you know, do work that's not backbreaking. I can eat every day. I can sleep in a bed. Since that is such a thing that so many people don't have, I do feel like a bajillionaire. So then to have such insane wealth, it is kind of like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole show on TV right now. It's not very good, but it's called Your Friends and Neighbors, and it's about one of these people who loses his job. And
Mm.
then his solution is to steal from his neighbors.
That's great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the show's not very good, but I think it's a wonderful premise. Okay, so ready or not. As a child, Daniel Demas is confronted in his family's mansion by Charles, a wounded man who begs him for help. Instead, Daniel alerts his family, who arrive in ceremonial masks and robes. Despite his bride Helene's pleas, Charles is shot with a spear gun and dragged away into a locked room. 30 years later, Daniel's brother Alex, the estranged son of the owners of the successful Le Damas family games company, is set to marry Grace, a former foster child. On Alex and Grace's wedding day, she meets the Le Damases, Daniel and his wife Charity, Alex's cocaine-addicted sister Emily, her husband Fitch, and their young sons Georgie and Gabe. Alex's aunt Helene and his parents Tony and Becky.
Emily's my favorite character.
The coked out one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Fitch a lot.
Me too.
But also he's played by this guy who used to be in Orphan Black. And he was also in...
Yes!
Yeah.
I was wondering where I knew him from.
Yeah, he was also in that Alien, that Nunavut Alien movie that we watched. It was a little...
Remember.
Well, anyway. He's a Canadian actor, so... Grace and Becky seem to bond. Grace stresses that she's looking forward to having a real, permanent family. After the ceremony, Tony explains that his ancestor, Victor Le Damas, made a deal with someone named LaBelle to build the Le Damas fortune in exchange for the family observing a tradition. At midnight on their wedding day, every new member draws a game card from LaBelle's puzzle box. Grace draws hide and seek.
And she just thinks the whole thing is kind of silly, like hide and seek, but everybody's like, oh, it's real.
And in the beginning here, she's very nervous. She wants to, impress the family. She feels inadequate. And she really has this desire, like she says, to have like a real family.
I like that in her character. But I guess now as somebody who has met what would be my in-laws if Alan and I got married, well, I don't know. I guess if I was her, I feel like stepping in, I'd be like, I don't want this one. They all seem like assholes. It's not like the family's going to magically stop being assholes once you're married in. But I am jealous of people whenever they're like, oh, me and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, we're like besties and stuff. I'm like, oh, that seems like it'd be kind of nice.
But I'm jealous of people who say that about their own parents too. I mean, I think it's not common, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
and Alex doesn't have it. Like he's estranged. So, I don't know. I feel like I'd kind of be like, oh, if you're like totally not wanting this, I mean, like, let's, guys, your friends can be your found family too.
Definitely. Tony explains the rules of the game and tells her all the cameras and lights inside the mansion will be turned off. Believing it to be a harmless game, Grace hides herself in a dumbwaiter as the Le Damases each receive a weapon and a creepy old-timey record plays. Alex finds Grace, who witnesses Emily accidentally kill a maid named Clara, who she mistakes for Grace. As the family converge on the maid's body, we learn that the, quote, ritual requires that the bride has to be the one so that if the maid dies, it does not count.
And I love that. And I love how like pissed off the like aunt gets. He's like, no, it does not count. She's been waiting to kill this girl.
Alex reveals that his family is cursed. If the new member draws the hide and seek card, the rest must find and ritually sacrifice them before dawn, or they die instead. The card was last drawn by Helene's husband Charles, who was then found and murdered. There is a tense moment when she is discovered by the family who are moving Clara's body. She is shot at and escapes.
Man, I would just be so fucking pissed. I know she is pissed and upset,
Ew.
but I'd be like, listen, we never had to get married. Like, this never had to be a thing we had to do. He could have chosen.
doesn't he turn that on her later? Like, you wanted to get married.
Yeah, it's
It's
like,
like,
she just wanted a family.
yeah.
Yeah.
She is discovered by Daniel, who is disillusioned with his family and gives her a head start before alerting the others. Emily accidentally kills another maid in the chaos.
I love she's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
The family decide to turn on the cameras to better find Grace, but Alex turns them on first as he is trying to disable the security system. Grace's escape is blocked by the family butler, Stevens. What a
Stevens.
dick. She, in turn, splatters the hot tea he was preparing on his face and runs away. Alex destroys the camera controls and strangles Tony until Daniel knocks him unconscious with a fire extinguisher. Daniel and Tony restrain Alex. Grace is seen by a third maid who accidentally crushes herself in a dumbwaiter while alerting the family to Grace's presence.
These poor maids.
I know. Grace escapes through an open window and overhears Helene and Tony argue about Alex. Helene says that Alex is meant to lead the family and says that he is the only one of them to see Mr. LaBelle in his chair. Grace runs to the goat shed where Georgie shoots her in the hand. She knocks him out, but is startled by a goat and falls into a pit filled with the corpses of the Ladumas' previous sacrifices, including that of Charles.
I do like the detail that all of the kids are like so fucked up, you know? Like Emily's on coke and then Daniel's like an alcoholic, it seems. And so it's not even as if things are really like that their lives are good.
Right. Yeah. She escapes from the pit, but not before she further mutilates her shot up hand by accidentally bringing it down on a nail. She makes it through the front gate and injures herself by pulling off a metal pole and squeezing herself through the fence. She is pursued into the forest by Stevens. She fights Stevens off, but is eventually captured by him. He shoots her with a tranquilizer dart. As he is driving Grace back to the house, she awakens and attacks Stevens, causing the car to crash and kill him. Near the crash, Daniel captures Grace after realizing that his father is secretly watching. Alex has almost escaped his restraints when his mom comes in. They have a conversation where he says what led him away from the family was when he thought it was normal to slit the throat of a goat. He realized that you'll do anything if the family says it's okay. A very chilling line. But then he met Grace. He says Grace is the opposite of the family. The Ladumases prepare to complete the ritual sacrifice. However, they are incapacitated after it turns out that Daniel poisoned them with a non-lethal dose of hydrochloric acid in the ritual cup. Charity shoots Daniel in the neck after he attempts to protect Grace, leaving him to bleed to death as Grace runs away. In the ongoing chaos, the mansion is set on fire and Grace is attacked by Becky, whom she beats to death with LaBelle's box. Alex goes to find Grace but witnesses her attacking his mother. Grace pulls away from Alex, who, after realizing that she will never trust him and will almost certainly leave him once she escapes, subdues her to complete the ritual.
Which is so just like, you piece of shit. I love that he's a bad guy in the end. Like, I was hoping they wouldn't redeem him.
Hard to see how he could be redeemed.
Yeah, like, if you even just, like, there's no way you could love somebody if you even think for a second you could be setting them up to be hunted down by your shitty family. Like,
No.
I don't know. Like, I simply would never put my partner in that situation. Like, when I think about how much I love Alan, like, it's just crazy. Like, and even when I think about when I, like when he introduced me to his family, like, at first he was kind of, like, cagey about me meeting his family. And I thought, like, oh, he doesn't like me, he doesn't want to be serious, but he was like, no, I just don't want to like put you in a weird situation, and so that's what a partner does, is they protect you, they try to, so like I yeah, he gave me just a very his family is very nice. I don't want to like paint them in a bad light. It's just they are very, very southern. Um and he knew that would be a culture shock for me, and it was, but things are civil, when we when we talk.
Yeah. Grace breaks free from the ritual table just as the sun rises. Despite Grace winning the game, Helene attempts to attack her, but explodes mid-stride as a result of the curse. The remaining members of the family explode one by one, leaving only Alex, who tries to convince Grace to forgive him. She refuses and tosses her ring back, declaring she wants a divorce. Alex then succumbs to the curse and explodes. LaBelle briefly shows himself to Grace and nods his approval. The sole survivor of the night, a blood-covered Grace, walks out of the burning manor just as the police arrive. Upon being asked what has happened, she replies, "In-laws." Well, here's some trivia. What phobia is that? Fear of marriage, also known as gamophobia, is an intense fear of commitment and marriage that can significantly impact relationships and overall well-being. This fear can manifest in various ways, from avoiding conversations about the future to ending relationships abruptly.
I don't think I have such a fear, but I am so glad that I am glad that I am not disillusioned by marriage. And I do enjoy I was just talking to Minermal about this. We were just talking about weddings because I've had some weird experiences with weddings. And I won't name, hopefully this friend doesn't listen, but I have a friend who I just suspect like is not happy in a marriage. But I don't think we're close enough anymore to really discuss it. But growing up, I feel like you told me on more than one occasion, like, listen, it's not all as cracked up to be. And of course, being like born a girl and like, growing up, like I've always, knew that I wanted to date men. So, I used to think I would be such a bride. It is just so scary how girls are groomed into thinking that that's going to be the most important thing that they will ever achieve. And, but I do remember when I was a kid and I learned that it was all about like just giving your daughter away like she's cattle. I was like, oh, this shit sucks, actually. Like, wait, what? You mean the father taking the daughter down the aisle is supposed to be like he's giving her away? Oh, that's just so gross.
Yeah, it's
And
disgusting.
yeah, I don't even think I'd want, like, once I found out about elopement, I was like, now that sounds like fun.
My parents actually eloped, and then they had
Aw.
a formal wedding afterward. But I got married at a courthouse. That was fine for me. One marriage, I think, was enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the institution, but I don't know. I mean, I don't find it necessary in my life. I have a commitment to the person I'm with, and that's good enough for me. And I used to think I was a weirdo because we don't live together. We have no plans to live together. Um, and I found out, no, I'm not a weirdo. You can do whatever you want. There's no
Nah.
one way to live this life. So,
Especially finding out the history of like living together and like all this stuff when it's like, well, we have modern solutions now to these problems. Like, we're not, you guys aren't going to be, creating a family of workers to help you on the farm. So like, it's just not,
right.
and if it would benefit you to not be together, then that quite literally is like what you should do?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think I only want to get married truly just for every single like legal benefit, and that's it.
Yeah. And it annoys me that, married people enjoy benefits that non-married people do not enjoy. I
Why
just think
can't
that's a really
friends get those
fucked up.
bennies?
It's just a really weird part of our culture. Or if we lived in Sweden, everyone would have them anyway, so it wouldn't even, matter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we wouldn't have to think about like, your stupid fucking health insurance. Like
insurance,
that's it. Is I just want to get Alan on my insurance. And then
yep.
also like I guess also in terms of like but I know
Well,
people always say this, but it's like I even feel like if something, knock on wood, really bad happened to either of us, I just don't I would hope neither of us have families that would be like, nope, that's all my shit. You're not getting any of my kids' stuff. I just feel like I'm not in a family of psychos, so I just don't. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, if you were, then that would be a good protection because you'd have
yeah,
those legal protections. Or, um, yeah. I mean, I think they're for those like really horrible, tragic times when you have to make, like, if you had to make a life and death decision, for Alan, as his spouse, it would be no question at all. But as his partner, it might be a question.
yeah.
Things like
The
that.
fact that common law shit doesn't exist in North Carolina is so
Yeah.
lame because it's like we've been together a decade. Like I don't think we're gonna just up and leave each other. You know?
Yeah. North Carolina is like really retrograde in terms of that stuff. Like you have to live it separately for a year and a day before you can file for
It's so fucked. And then the whole you can get sued for, cheating.
adultery. Yeah.
That's it's so I've been talking about that rule. I didn't know that was a rule until my hairstylist was telling me about it because she's getting a divorce. And but it's funny that everybody who I've talked to about it has had a different reaction. Um, like if I know people who have experiences with adultery in their family, they're like, "That's a great rule." And then everybody else is like, "No, how archaic and awful."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's very strange. Like when I first moved to North Carolina, I was a drinker and I didn't know about dry counties or things like that. I mean, it's a really different culture down here that I'm used to now after 25 years. But I mean, it's just incredible, like some of the laws that are on the books in this state.
Yeah. I remember being in a drugstore and this like guy just comes up and he's like, "Excuse me, I'm not from here. Where can I get alcohol?"
I know.
It's like, "Oh yeah,
Amazing.
I guess they
You have
yeah,
to
they
go to
you
a
can't just get
separate,
it."
yeah, you have to go to a separate store,
But part of me like I guess I'm not a fan of drinking, so I guess in some ways is it not a good thing? Like
why?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know like the the or I guess it's kind of like, does anybody have to be drinking at like 3 a.m.?
Well, no, but I mean, I feel like if you want to be drinking, you should be able to, as long as you're not about to get behind the wheel of a car or something. I mean, but I mean, you can't, in some places, you can't get alcohol on Sunday. Like where my
Yeah.
mom used to live, that was the case. You couldn't get alcohol on Sunday. You had to drive 15 minutes to like one town over. But I'm not on a Sunday. On any other day, you had to drive 15 minutes into whatever the next town over is called, to get alcohol, because the county she lived in was dry.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I get, but I know I say that, but I'm also kind of like, I don't know. I guess I'm, I'm not like, yes, please. We need these things to drink more. So, it sounds crazy, but also I feel like it would be good. I'm a weirdo who thinks like it would be good if everything was dry. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I might have my preferences. Like I would love it if when I took a walk I didn't smell weed everywhere. But I think I would rather it be legal in my
Mm,
state so that people could, if they wanted to, you know, go ahead and get it and use it.
yeah.
So I just find it really weird that it's illegal. Anyway, 17 different versions of Grace's wedding dress were created by costume designer Avery Plews to show the progress of Grace's night and how her clothes correspond to her attitude. Grace's yellow Chuck Taylor sneakers were actually custom painted for the film, as Converse no longer makes that color.
I had yellow Converses in high school.
Did
Wow.
you?
I
Oh.
did.
A lot of the film was filmed at Casa Loma in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It is a designated heritage property and is a museum that is open to the public. You can take tours of the building and learn about its history. You can even walk through some of the secret passages. Many movies were filmed there, including Crimson Peak, The Pacifier, and X-Men.
That makes sense. The X-Men. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you'd think so. The actors recall having a group conversation with the cast regarding the times they have died in movies and TV, and Elise Levesque, plays Charity, appears to have the record among them. None of the cast had ever exploded before, though, so this was a first for them all.
Well, good for them.
Now, what we usually do with Briefly, what does Letterboxd have to say about it, is I take 3 negative reviews and 3 positive reviews, but there were so many negative reviews that I
Really?
couldn't stop. Yes. So Caleb gave it half a star. Christ is King. This movie was fine until it took a satanic turn. Even then, it is a low-quality, bad acting horror film.
I think the message, though, is it's not good to be satanic.
Right.
So would this not be like, yes, Christ is king? They all exploded. They were all horrible people. Like,
I don't know why it was offensive to that person, but B-Trap gave it a half star. Ass movie.
gotta have the ass one.
Green Olive 8 gave it a half star. Only redeeming part was when she punched that kid in the face.
Oh my god! That's crazy to be like, this movie sucked up until the child violence. Then I was in.
Emo Sheeran gave it a half star. What an atrocity. Misses the mark in every way possible, which is the only funny aspect of this comedy. Don't even get me started on the fake-ass political eat the rich nonsense. Whoever wrote this needs a new job.
I feel like it wasn't even supposed to be taken that seriously. Like, they're so stupid wealthy that it's like it in itself is comedic. I don't think anybody's supposed to be like causing a revolution post watching Ready or Not. I think it's just supposed to be like crazy comedy horror movie, you know.
Alyssa gave it a half star. White people and their bullshit. SMH.
I love that. Could be a 5-star review also.
I know. Totally. Well, Vivi gave it 5 stars. The last scene of the movie always cracks me up. Good for her, dude. Good for her.
Yeah.
Nina 3 gave it 5 stars. Absolutely bloody lovely.
Absolutely bloody lovely.
And Rouge gave it 5 stars. I love when rich people explode. Well, how would we rate this? How about in terms of Chuck Taylors?
You go first.
3.5.
I think I give it 3.5. Like, I feel like it's cute, you know?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's fun. It's not as fun as Your Next, but it's fun. It's
when
in
Your
that
Next
vein.
exists, if Your Next did not exist, I'd probably up the star, but Your Next is such a better version of this, I think.
Yeah. Would we watch it again?
Yeah, I would.
I'd watch it again. Do you have a favorite scene or kill?
I do love it when Emily just shoots the other maid, and goes like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing, and like throws the gun, and then I'm like, why would he give her when her husband Fitch is like also looking at the video of how to do a crossbow in the bathroom, and then he just decides to give her the crossbow, and she immediately kills the other maid. I thought that was funny. Those two are my faves.
I kind of like the sequence when she's in the kitchen with Stevens. He's preparing the tea and she's hiding behind the little island thing, and her fiance is watching on the
Mm-hmm.
camera. I don't know. I just like that whole sequence. Who wins the You Fool award?
Alex.
Yeah.
Because he could have avoided all of this by being like, listen, babe, my family made a pact with the devil. And if we ever get married, there could be a chance that you have to be murdered. And then if you're not murdered, I'll die. So how about we just skip the whole marriage thing?
Yeah, for
And,
real.
and she might say, that sounds crazy. And he could just say, yeah, you're right. I'm insane. Let's just not get married, And then happily ever after for everyone.
I know. It's so easy.
He could have been like, listen, babe, let's go make some friends. They're calling it Friendsgiving now. We've got Galentine's Day. Like, you really don't need family. Or that could be your family. So,
I couldn't agree more.
uh, okay, this is gonna sound so off topic, but I meant to say it during the Mom and Mac chat. But,
Hmm.
okay, just a PSA to WoHos. I read this article. Okay, so last Friday, I last Friday was the time that I decided might be the last time I take an edible. First off, I took too much, and I know not to go to the emergency room because you're too high, but it is scary when you have the thought, I'm dying. I'm dying. I'm definitely dying right now. And then I just happened to read an article, which did not help, but it did help solidify maybe the want to be sober now. Okay, a study came out and they published it on 420, which was kind of dastardly, but it was a study that basically, I've been telling a lot of people that I know because it kind of feels like one of those, maybe like when they first said about cigarettes, like guys don't do that. That was the feeling I got when I read this study. Uh, the crazy statistic was someone who has an emergency room visit or hospitalization due to cannabis has a 23% increased risk of dementia within 5 years compared to someone who is at the hospital for another reason. They have a 72% greater risk compared to the general population. And just in general, that if you are predisposed to dementia and you have mental health issues and you take psychiatric medicine, be careful because everybody kind of has this idea that since it's natural, it's all good. It's not true. Like, weed is more potent. Like, it just keeps getting more potent. And especially if you are in an older age range, be careful because the increased stress you might be adding to your brain, like, they don't actually have the knowledge of the why yet, but they have the just result.
Hmm.
But yeah, just to say, you know what, be careful because now daily use of weed has surpassed daily use of alcohol, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
crazy. And also I do find it fucked up the way in which like edibles are marketed because they are marketed as like fun, yummy snacks. And why wouldn't a kid try it? And there's also been a huge increase in like adults who have edibles at home and the kids think it's just normal and they eat it. So I don't know. When I read that, I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I think maybe I am of that population that just shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I felt the need to, I was like, I don't really have a platform except for World of Horror. So I guess it's not to scare anybody. It's just more to be like, be cognizant, be aware of what you're putting in your body. Um, and I have now try to then fill my time doing other stuff. Like I have all these model ships from the show One Piece, and I had already made a bunch, but I just kept buying the kits and not making them. But now I've been making one every night because I'm like, I gotta do something, you know? And
That's so cool.
it's a way better use of my time. I have like, because I used to get high and then tell myself I was going to do that. And then, of course, I wasn't going to make a ship while I'm high. And so, now I'm doing that and I have like real stuff to put on a shelf and then look at every day. And I've been hanging stuff now. Like, this is I finally hung this up. This is
Oh, wow.
it's a Judy Rizzuti original that I got from Dad's house. So, you know, uh, I just feel like everybody's different. I know there's some like my dad was somebody who took marijuana or smoked marijuana because he literally had cancer and it helped with his pain. That's one thing, that's a whole other thing. But if you, especially if you have mental health issues, you might just be making it worse for yourself. I think that's what I was doing, was telling myself this is helping, but like it's one thing to take something in a controlled way. Like I'm very interested in what the research on like ketamine use in a controlled environment for helping treatment resistant depression. But that's so much different than you yourself taking it upon yourself to just, do whatever with no regard. And that's what I was doing. I'm not saying everybody who consumes or partakes is like that, but a lot of people are. So that's just my little PSA, which is just, when I read that, it really felt like, oh shit, like this is a big deal.
When I was in undergraduate school, I had a boyfriend who really liked to take acid, like a lot. And in a psychology class or something, the professor said every time you take a dose, it changes the chemistry in your brain. And he's like, every single time, like it will happen. And I feel like in the decades since that time, there's been a lot of research into what alcohol does to you and what other drugs do to your brain, and it's not good. And I mean, aside from the health and the mental health aspects of it, I mean, it is totally a time suck. And I used to get drunk and make all these plans, I mean, and I had big dreams, when I was drinking. And suffice it to say, they did not come true while I was drunk. But I don't drink anymore. I shouldn't drink. I mean, I'm one of those people who just shouldn't drink, and so I don't. And that's not everybody. Some people can handle it, and my hat's off to them. I can't, So I think it's just good to know yourself and know your limits, and take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way, where I'm like, maybe in a social setting where it's like somebody else has the supply. Like I'm not like saying I'm straight edge now, but I'm like, I don't have the button though. Like I am the rat that will keep pressing the button for the stimulus. So like it can't be up to me if if like I'm, or like, obviously I'm not saying I'm just going to do it if anybody gives it to me, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like it, in my own day-to-day life, it's not helping. And then reading that, I've always kind of been afraid of like eventually getting dementia or like having Alzheimer's or something. So I don't need anything to help that,
Yeah.
And I do like it was fucking with my memory. Like, massively, where I just would realize like I would try to pull names that I knew and I just couldn't anymore, and that was scary. So yeah, little WoHo PSA.
Well, thanks for that, Matt.
No problem. Now for something completely different. So our next film is The Platform. Here is the short plot summary from IMDb. In a prison where inmates are fed on a descending platform, those on the upper levels take more than their fair share, while those below are left to starve on scraps, and one man decides to change the system. In Spanish, which is the original language for this film, it is called El Hoyo, Lo Hoyo?
El Hoyo.
El Hoyo, literally the hole. It was directed by Galder Gaztelu Irusha, screenplay by David DeSola, Pedro Rivero, story by David DeSola, and produced by Carlos Juarez, starring Ivan Masagay, Antonia San Juan, Zorayan Aguilior, Emilio Boale, and Alexandra Masanghe, and cinematography by John D. Dominguez, edited by Harriet Zubilaga and Elena Ruiz, and music by Aranzazu Calleja.
Great job,
I,
Mac.
Thank you. I have not started, but I am interested in trying to learn Spanish. Like all of a sudden one day I was like, I should learn Spanish. Like it just feels like the thing I should do because I feel like if you live in America, there's a huge Spanish speaking population in North Carolina. It just seems like the right thing to do. Um, the movie was released September 6th, 2019 at TIFF and November 8th, 2019 in Spain with a runtime of 94 minutes. Phenomenal runtime. It exactly as long as this movie needed to be.
And it really is kind of divided into 3 acts. You know, the first one is heavily dialogue dependent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still very compelling. And there are 3 characters that interact with our main character and really clips along.
I've definitely loved the first act. Like I think all of them are good, but this I feel like this was one of our first squad watches, and I just remember loving this movie. It's not often that you see a movie that does feel like kind of original. It's obviously not 100% original, but you know, it's not like a reboot or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
nice. And I love this kind of like sci-fi dystopian makes you think kind of movie. So we start looking at a bustling high-end kitchen, very brightly lit, where dishes are being prepared in every corner, and also somebody's playing the violin. I think because it's very fancy.
It's very fancy.
Trimagasi says in voiceover, there are 3 kinds of people: those above, those below, and those who fall. So we meet Goreng, who is our main character. He wakes in a cell on level 48. We meet his cellmate Trimagasi, who's this really older guy. I love this guy. I think he's my favorite character. He's, to me, the most compelling guy, and him and Baharat, those 2 are my faves.
Yeah.
But this actor is so good. So Trimagasi, he explains that they are in a tower-style holding facility, and once per day, food arrives on this platform that lowers from level 0, and it stops just for 2 minutes on each level, and a green and red light indicates the time period. And so, you know, he just starts digging in immediately. We see the table is like, there's still food on it, but it's, I mean, it is gross. Like I think if you or I walked in and somebody said, "Hey, take some of this," we'd say, I'll wait. I'm good." And that's what Goreng says. He's like, it's disgusting." And Chirmagazi's like, "Level 48 is wasted on you, buddy. You don't know how good this is." And Goreng just takes like, you know, a mango or something for later. But after the platform descends, it starts to heat up, and it's because and Trimagasi explains he's stealing the food from the lower level. Like once the 2 minutes are up, you don't get to have it, and after that they'll either burn you or like raise the temperature until you are burnt or freeze you to death. So he throws it back down. And we learn that the lower the level, the less food there is on each platform, and prisoners are randomly reassigned to a new level every month. And Goreng immediately, you know, brings up the, I guess, obvious point of like, you know, well, why don't we just, you know, make sure that everybody can have some? And Trimagasi's like, okay, dummy. Trimagasi says it's important not to pester the ones below and that the ones above won't answer. All of this is obvious. That's his catchphrase. But as the platform descends, also, Trimagasi takes extra time to spit on the food. And Garang says, what if those above us did the same? And Trimagasi says, of course they did. It's just the way things are. So we've then flashed back to Garang's interview. He understands that he cannot leave the prison until the agreed upon time is complete, and he asks if he can bring with him the novel Don Quixote. That's his item, and he tells Trimagasi that he voluntarily came there to quit smoking, to read Don Quixote, and then he would receive like an accredited degree. And this is like hilarious, or almost like baffling to Trimagasi. He's like, you, first off, you asked to be in here. That's crazy. And then he's like, I'm not going to get a degree when I'm out of here. In fact, I should receive 2 degrees because I've been here a year. Of course, then it begs the question, what makes a person end up here then? So then at night, we see that the red light comes on and the platform rushes up through the levels at high velocity. So Garang also doesn't eat the second day. Oh yeah, that's when Trimagasi says he doesn't deserve this level. And Trimagasi begins a monologue basically saying that why he's in the hole is he says that one day an advertisement on TV came up for a knife sharpener. He thought he never needed a sharp knife, but what if buying it would make his life whole? So he bought it. And then he's like, and then what do you know? The next day, the same salespeople gave him an ad for an even sharper knife that never needs sharpening, the Samurai Plus. He bought the Samurai, now he needs the Samurai Plus. He got so fucking pissed off that he threw his television out of the door and it killed a man walking below who was an undocumented immigrant. And, that leads Trimagasi to say, like, now whose fault was it that guy died? Number one, in his words, he shouldn't have even been there. Number two, he was only outraged because of the audacity of, like, the whole idea of what just happened. And then, of course, what item did he bring with him? His Samurai Plus. And this kind of sparks a little bit of a debate between Garang and Trimagasi, where, Garang's like, well, you're like a murderer, and he's like, well, I don't see it that way. And then he also says that while he was on level 132, where no food reached, he still ate, although the platform was empty, which freaks Garang out because then it's like, well, wait a second. You did have a partner, but now I'm assigned to be your partner. Okay. So Garang then has the idea to speak with the ones above to try to get them to ration the food. And Trimagasi's like, they don't listen, they won't listen, and they do not care. This is just the way of things. And so then Garang says he will talk to the ones below. And they're like, hey, leave some more wine for us next time. So then Trimagasi just whips it out and starts peeing on them. He's like, hey, here's your wine. And so that kind of like, I guess, all of this is like an allegory, for like trickle down economics, of clearly showing that what doesn't work is this idea that if you give people enough, by the end, everybody should have something, because in practice, we see people just being very selfish. And I guess Trimagasi is representing the way most people feel about things, which is just like, yeah, this is the way the world works. And I am but a cog in this system. I'm not the one who invented the system, but this is how it is. So this is how I'm going to play it.
And one thing about Trimagasi is he describes everybody as like those selfish pricks. And it doesn't matter if they're above or below him, but in any case, they're like his enemy. And so I thought that was really great. He just refers to them all in the same way.
Yeah. And I remember being a little kid and the concept, of the like, oh, we're going to razz the freshmen, but it's okay because then once you become a senior, then you get to do that. And I remember then thinking that as a freshman and being like, all right. And then when I got to be a senior, I was like, I don't even want to do that though. Like, this doesn't even wait. Like, this was the kind of future that was promised, but I don't even really like, this isn't really a great reward for, going through whatever you put a freshman through, because it's not. I feel like everybody comes to the same conclusion of like, well, okay, then the cycle just repeats itself. No. If everybody, obviously it's like a idyllic way to view everything, but if we all just put in something good, surely only good stuff comes out then. But obviously it's not the way that the world works. Or that's a lot easier said than done. So, Trimagasi is like using his Samurai Plus to mark the days in the cell on the wall, and this is a great jump scare. Out of nowhere, a body just falls from the upper level, and some of the blood splashes on Goreng's face. Like, it hits their level and then continues falling down, and Goreng's like, somebody just fell down. And Trimagasi's like, yeah, obviously. And he says that on the upper levels, yeah, you can eat whatever you want, but you have nothing to wait for. So then your mind runs wild. And those who wouldn't have the guts to jump when they're below might then when they're up above. And he thinks that Goreng is one such person that would jump if he was higher up, which I also thought was interesting. I don't know. I definitely have felt in a way, I guess that's the idea of like the middle class, maybe, like, or I mean, the rich in general. But, I do feel as though, especially as a person with anxiety kind of already built into my brain, if like in a problem solving scenario, you might be good. But if you have no problems, your brain then invents problems, which is so great. Awesome for me. But yeah, a lot of like philosophical ideas being presented here. So then he suggests that Goreng just read some Don Quixote to him. He's like, I'm having trouble falling asleep lately. So one day, a woman named Miharu rides down on the platform. She's just sitting in the very middle. And Trimagasi explains that she descends the pit once a month to search for her child. And, Goreng's like, they have kids in here? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. And every month she kills her cellmate so that the next month she might be reunited with her child. And so the body that fell might have actually been her cellmate. So Trimagasi says, in the whole, everyone can behave how they want to, and that he didn't actually kill anybody when he was on level 132. A body fell on his level, and he and his cellmate ate the body. So he's like, I didn't kill anybody. Miharu then descends on the platform and then is immediately grabbed roughly by the two men below, and Goreng is yelling at them to stop, and there's a struggle, but then Miharu returns to the platform. She easily took care of those dudes. I mean, it still wasn't, it's a really kind of gruesome, like, because, well, Goreng kind of reaches for her when he first sees her, and Trimagasi is like, oh, haha, you want to have her for a few days. The implication's very disgusting. But, so now we just know kind of like, no, you're not even, the hunger's maybe even the least of your worries. You got just psychos in here too. So I do love this next sequence. It's like a cute little like montage showing just their daily life, like things really aren't so bad. Like they get to eat every day, and they're doing stretches while naked. They're reading Don Quixote together. It's actually pretty great. Okay, but then they're reshuffled, and when Goreng wakes up, he is immediately already tied up, like using the bed sheets, and when he looks, they're on level 171. So Trimagasi comes over and just very calmly explains to him that he plans to slice off pieces of Goreng's flesh. He's like, I can't kill you because then the meat would spoil. And the whole time Goreng's like, no, like what? And it is really, I think this part is so effective because you've just had this adorable montage of them being the like besties. But
Mhm.
Trimagasi's explaining, he's like, listen, you're going to come to see me differently anyway, like as time goes on and you get hungrier because we're not eating down here. And, you know, you might be young and fit, but I'm old. And the month after this one, I'm out. So I'm just trying to make it through, you know? And you know, Goreng pleads for his life and says that this is going to make Trimagasi a murderer. And he's like, no, it's not. Like, he categorically denies that this would ever make him a murderer. Um, he says that the ones responsible would be the ones up above who made it so that they would be hungry down here. And so now we see that it's like he's going to wait 8 days, he says. So, you know, it's really nasty. We get a lot of gruesome detail, like, you know, Garang's obviously not leaving the bed. He like shits and pisses in the bed. It's like nasty and whatnot. He's all sweaty and gross looking. Um, so then now Trimagasi tells him, well, it's time. And so he begins to cut into his flesh, but then Miharu arrives on the platform, immediately attacks Trimagasi, and then frees Goreng and gives him the Samurai Plus so that he may do what he wants. And what he does is he stabs Trimagasi to death. And so then Miharu, you know, cuts up Goreng or cuts up Trimagasi and encourages Goreng to eat his flesh. But that immediately begins making it so that Goreng is now haunted with visions of Trimagasi. And Trimagasi's like, listen, we're the same now, except me, I treated you with respect. But look at me. Like, he just slaughtered me. Like, I was going to do this the nice way, but, you know, you're actually worse than me. And then Goreng fantasizes that he sleeps with Miharu, which I understood why that was in there, but you know, I kind of would like it if it had just been like
Mhm.
he, you know, he's brought into this, he voluntarily puts himself in the situation. He doesn't have the same like depravity that Trimagasi has, but also it's because he doesn't have the experience Trimagasi has. And so when he, you know, tries to help Miharu, it's from like a sense of, you know, this, that he needs to be chivalrous. Um, and that's what makes, you know, her then kind of be like, okay, real recognize real, you know, you weren't gross to me, so I won't let this guy kill you. Um, but yeah, he does kind of have this, he's both afraid of her and attracted to her. But I guess she is kind of like his savior too. Would have been cool if he had had a vision of her kind of like a goddess or something. Cause that's to me what she was like an evil, like scary goddess that like saves his life. Um,
Mhm.
so, all right, month 3, Garang wakes up on level 33 with a woman named Imo Guiri and her dog Ramses II, which
Little wiener
I,
dog.
yeah, he's really cute. And I feel like just from the second they show this dog, like I don't know peace until I know that the dog's gone. Like the whole, it's like, because it's such a gruesome like idea that it is like, but this kind of just is kind of the whole point of this character is that um she doesn't realize what is actually going on with this pit.
Mhm.
But so, you know, the first thing Goreng says when he sees that dog, and he's just like, what is wrong with you? That dog's not going to last a day. But she knows him already by name, and she's like, you know, I thought somebody who would bring a book to the pit, you know, would like dogs. And it's revealed that she was the one who interviewed Goreng before sending him to the pit. And she volunteered after she was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. So the way that she's rationing it is that she's eating every other day, letting Ramses II eat on the days that she's not, and also prepares 2 rations for the people below her already, which is a sweet idea. She says that something needs to happen in the whole spontaneous solidarity, which Goreng says, you know, first off, okay, get real. Like now he's been through the, like maybe day one Goering would be like, yeah, that's a sweet idea. But after, eating human flesh, I think he's like, that ain't happening, lady. And so he suggests that the hole was created for the opposite reason and to ensure that revolution does not happen on the outside. He's like, maybe if it happens here, then they know what to prevent out there. And so she tries unsuccessfully day after day to convince the pair below them to also ration their food. Like she says it very politely, like, hello, like I've prepared 2 plates for you. Please eat only that. And then please prepare 2 plates for the next people. And every day they're like, go fuck yourself, lady.
We're going to
Like,
eat whatever we want.
yeah, who the fuck are you? Like, sure, you're up there telling us how to eat, which is, I mean, like, the whole psyche of these people, like the idea of somebody on a higher level telling somebody on the lower level to do anything, especially conserve food, is like rich. So after 15 days of this, Goering kindly loses it and tells the men that if they don't ration their food, he's going to shit in their food every day and then spread it so that there's nothing edible left on the platform. And then he tells them to tell the ones below them the same thing. And so Imagordi, wants to convince the ones above them, but Goering says that's not going to work because you can't shit upwards. And she's also like kind of like taken aback by him doing this. She's kind of like, well, that's not really like the idea of what I'm going for. Like, you threatening them is not. And he's like, well, how else are they going to do it, other than you threatening them? And, which then introduces another idea of like, how do we.
Yeah, it's very Hobbesian, actually. Thomas Hobbes had this idea that we will cooperate with each other, and that's like in the best interest of the group, but we'll only do it if we're forced to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that, he's right that they have no pull for the people above them. So how can you ever get the ones above you to just decide to be nice, and
Right.
leave more for you, which is, I think, the whole conceit of why trickle down economics just makes no goddamn sense, is not real, will never be real. And, yeah, is how I feel about like if like this idea of like philanthropy, of like, well, sure, yeah, like we just were talking about, if somebody has $1 billion that they could never spend, yeah, they should help people out, but they quite literally have no incentive to. And
Right.
if we're just going to say, well, out of the goodness of their hearts, it would be really great if they could, it's like, it's just literally never going to happen. Like, and the way I have always felt about, at least when we're talking about like the American economy, of course, I am not happy when rich people are doing dumb rich people shit in America. But at the same time, if the rules allow them to do that, then I also am not necessarily mad at them, because I think it is true that if the option is there, people are going to do it. Like, there's nothing to stop them. So that's why you need like, well, that's why it's like how with like companies, like we can't just say, hey guys, hey factories, it'd be really great if you wouldn't pollute the environment. It would just be really awesome if you didn't. They'd be like, okay, go fuck yourself. Like, but unless you make it where it's like, well, if you don't do this, then you don't get to be a factory anymore. Oh, okay, well now they'll play ball. So
Yeah.
I think it's true. I think it's like asking your captors to just be really cool guys. Like, you might get lucky and somebody's like, you know what, I think, I'll pat myself on the back today. But even in my opinion, a philanthropist is not necessarily like a good person, like somebody, like a billionaire giving away 10% of their income affects them so little than if I were to give 10% of my income to a charitable thing. That it would make all the difference for them to do it and they'd never notice it. For me, it would make actually very little difference. And also my life would be markedly more difficult. So it's just, yeah, I do kind of agree with Goering that like just asking everybody to please be nice If it was that easy, I think we all as a human race would have already done it like forever ago. And sometimes I get into this. I feel like some young people on the internet I've noticed kind of have this idea that it's like, well, that's not what should happen. So that shouldn't happen. And it's
Mhm.
like, I think we're playing a stupid game. It's like getting into a fight with somebody on Facebook. It's like, what change are you making in the world? Like, you're not actually doing anything, in my opinion. I'm not necessarily saying people should say things unchallenged, but I think you have to accept that you're not actually doing any sort of like real revolutionary work. You're just beefing with somebody online, you know?
Yeah, it's like the way care ethics was explained to me, I thought was really genius. So, like, if you take the abortion debate, you're just going to come to a stalemate every time because it's like the right of the fetus is what's important. No, the right of the woman's what's important. And then you just go back and forth and there's never any progress. But care ethics comes in and says, okay, so when somebody gets an abortion, they're going to need a lot of support. So how do we accomplish that? And it's sort of like, let's look at what's actually happening instead of like this like back and forth where we're never going to get anywhere. And so what you were saying was just reminding me of that. And it's such a practical, compassionate way of like looking at things instead
Mm.
of just like, pissing it at each other.
I agree. Like whenever I see these videos, I'll see videos online that are like, you know, Trump supporter gets trolled. And it's like, great, you dunked on an old man. What has happened? Like, what have you done? It's also
Mm,
the lowest. I feel like it's all like, now I'm getting in the weeds, but it's like, as somebody now who's grown up in a southern state, and now I heavily interact with a lot of like very southern people with Republican views. I There's this idea, especially from people who live in the North, that everybody who is like, let's say, a Trump supporter and whatnot, they're just fucking dumbass fucking idiots who should, what, I don't know, be shot and killed. And it's like, okay, if y'all knew the state of education, like public education, it is so abysmal. Like, it's so, and I'm not saying, like, yes, of course, it would be great if everybody could just, use, resources on the internet and whatnot to educate themselves. But it ain't gonna happen, Buster. And if we're just acting like people wake up one day and decide, I'm going to be racist, like, that's like not how it works. And I feel like we're actually not getting anywhere to solving anything if we're just like, well, there's the people who are smart and good, and then the people who are bad and dumb. And then it's like, and then what, and then what? Because I do think it is true. This is honestly a controversial take now. I do feel like it is true that you could vote in a way that directly harms me, like me, Mac, and I could still think that you are not a bad person. I think that's when we start saying things like good, bad, it's just an us versus them. And I just don't know how that actually behooves anyone, like you said.
I mean, the only reason why somebody would vote against like trans rights is because they have a fear that's been planted in their brains. If they really had an idea about what trans people are, like they're people, it's in the name, and they have just the same like ambitions and desires and dreams as everybody else, then they would vote to support those people.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have to be othered first. And then once that happens, you just implant all these like fears, especially of, this like threat to your children. And that's how that works, But I think if you I'm always what I try to do, and I'm not always I'm actually very rarely successful. But what I try to do is I try to think to myself, why would somebody believe that, or why would somebody say that? And it's got to be, something that's inside them that's, it's like fulfilling some need or trying to soothe some fear or something like that. I mean,
And
people don't. Yeah.
there's also just straight up misinformation. It's like, the
Yeah.
misinformation that exists out there is so wild. Like nobody, it's like we're all kidding ourselves if we think that people are like, I'm about to vote for something that is going to hurt someone. Like that's not how they're thinking about it. They're
No.
thinking, I'm righteously saving somebody. Like, and
Yeah.
I don't agree with that personally, obviously, but at the same time, I don't think that automatically makes somebody like scum of the earth deserves to be killed, you know? Like, and I just also feel like, and what next? Like, you
Hmm.
know, we designate who we all disagree with. And again, I'm still not saying stuff should just go unchallenged. Like, you know, if you just if you hear something messed up, you know, or whatnot, like I'm not saying talks or discussions can't help, but I just feel like if you just think, well, those are the dumb, evil people, and then we're the good, awesome people. That's just it is just what they're doing, you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I would love to see rural places in the South have amazing education that led them to be the most successful versions of themselves, you know? Like, that's what I want. I don't want us to just say, well, we'll just put all the bad people on an island and then just forget about them. Like, that's
Well, it's
awesome.
sort of like this like, idea that liberals have that, all this stupid out of touch people will just die off someday and then we'll be fine. And that's just not the way it is. I teach young people and they are instilled with a lot of, ideas that I feel are hateful and uninformed, So it's not the case that we just have to wait it out and it's going to, change. I think constantly have, I mean, at least ask people to back up what they say. Like, why
Yeah.
do you say that? Why do you say that? Why do you believe that? And most people don't even get that far, you know? I
Yeah.
told you one time I dated this guy and I asked him uh, um, a question like this. He said, "Well, that's just what my daddy always told me," and that answer doesn't fly with me. It's not a
No,
good enough
yeah.
answer.
And I do have like I don't know what to call. I guess it I feel like it's also when I think about the levels people have to go to in their brain to reach like the beliefs I have now. I think I had way less steps to get there because of how I was raised, you know? I was never raised to believe, you know, well, being gay is a sin. I was never raised to believe this or that. And like so things that to me might seem like, well, yes, this is quite obvious. It's like I I think it's so different though when you are quite literally raised and everyone who you love and who loves you believes this. How
Hmm.
difficult that is to then say to even let yourself begin to think about that not being true, you know? It's I think you just have to think about it realistically, you know? I'm again not saying people shouldn't do these things, but should is such a stupid word because, like you said, what can we do right now? You know, not what intellectual debate can I get into? Like,
Hmm.
who is this? Only serves to stroke your own ego and to be like, I got him. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. So then one day, Miharu arrives injured, and Goreng immediately is like, "Get her, get her off, put her down there." And so he and Imoguri nurse her back to health, and then at one point, like it starts to get cold, and I think all these now I'm realizing all these are really great details. Like Imaguri doesn't understand why it's getting cold, and it's because her dog has kept a piece of food, and so we just come to realize Imaguri has had was kind of brainwashed by the administration to believe certain things about the pit that are just not true. So she also came into this like Goreng, despite working for them and sending people there, had no idea what was actually going on. But also probably the people running it don't know what's going on. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
probably quite true that unless they have cameras in every single corner, that they don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
And so then, he breaks up a fight between Miharu and Imaguri. And then the time has finally come. Now the dog's off screen because Miharu has butchered him. Um, and she pieces out right after. And Goreng mentions, like, well, she's, looking for her kid. And Imagiri says, well, there's no children in the pit. Nobody younger than 16. Like, the administration, which, first off, I'm like, 16-year-olds can be here?
Yeah.
But that's still fucked up.
Well, I mean,
Like,
16-year-olds work like in most places of the world. You can get a certificate or a license to work, when you're about
God,
16. So,
it's so scary. Like, even things that happen to younger people make less sense. I've said this a million times, but it's just like, I remember being, I think, like 9, and I was talking to dad about something. It was something in his Civ game where a 16-year-old had died, and I was like, well, she got to live a full life. Because in my head, I was like, well, first off, her
that's
age is
all.
in the double digits. That's already like way beyond me. And, she's old. Yeah. And now I'm like, first off, 16 is a child. And I still even believe, like, I had to be around some like 21-year-olds the other day. And I was just like, wow, you guys are young. Like, I didn't realize. And I remember being 21. I had a coworker who told me she was 27, and that blew my mind. Where now, if somebody said that same sentence back to me, like, wow, it blows my mind that you're 20, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. But it's true that when you're young, it's just like, you're like, I can't even fathom being that old. But yeah, what, like, two of the kids that is our friend's kids, he's got 2 twin daughters who are, I think they just turned 16. But I just look at them and I'm like, you could be 12. Like, they could say I'm 12 and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. you know
Yeah.
so uh you know Imaguiri's like, first off, children can't be in here. And also, I know that Miharu came alone. And, she wants to be the Asian Marilyn Monroe. And so she's an actor. But as she's saying this, we see her below stabbing people with the Samurai Plus. And, you know, I don't think Imaguiri thinks she's lying, but I just think she just doesn't know.
Hmm.
Like, it's a question
Well,
mark who Miharu is, but I don't think
she might have come in wanting to be the Asian Marilyn Monroe. She says her object was a ukulele, you know? But I mean, after any time, I mean, thinking about how blase Trimagasi was, at some of this stuff, I mean, just double that by a couple of years
yeah.
and, what would happen to a person.
And even Goreng has immediately kind of just become dead inside, you
Yeah,
know?
and we're it was like 5 months in. I mean, it's not even like
Yeah.
years and years. Yeah,
No, he's barely there and he's already like, well, my soul's dead. None of the
yeah.
shit surprises me anymore. So then there's a really beautiful sequence where a chef prepares escargot, and we see a platform full of food at level 0. And also it's a cute little, I forgot to mention, but Trimagasi calls Goreng his little escargot, and he explains that escargot have to go through like a purifying process. And that when he started cutting into Goreng, that was when he just keeps calling him after that, like his little escargot.
Mhm.
um but then we see the barbarity of people at the upper levels. Like, they're given this beautiful spread and they're just stepping on the food, they're just going ham on it. And it is baffling because you would think at level 0 or level 1, you'd be like, well, I'm just going to eat my food, but maybe at that point you're thinking like of all the people who wronged you before. And it's
Yes.
the whole like, well, now I'm here. I get to be the bastard. Which obviously leads us to then just being Trimagasi and pissing on people, and then being like, yeah, and they pissed on me too. So then they're reshuffled to level 202. Garang wakes up and we just see the feet of Imagwiri because she has hanged herself. She had told them that there were 200 levels, but when he looks down, he can still that there's even see that there's even more below. And so he begins to get hallucinations now of Imagwiri and Trimagasi, with Imagwiri saying like, well, like, that's why I hung myself because, I'm dying anyway. So I didn't want him to have to go through, having to kill me there. Now here's my body. And Trimagasi's like, yep, eat the crazy lady. She's right. And Garang is just like, he's throwing shit at the walls. He's just really feeling fucked up. But then he does end up eating her because he has got no other option.
And they're sort of taunting him. There's this other like theme that goes through this about who's the Messiah.
Mm.
And she is saying, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood and you will have eternal life or whatever. But it's just another way to drive him crazy, or maybe for him to rationalize, eating her or whatever. But I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that she's um oh, and we also learned that he said going in his favorite food was escargot. And
Yes.
so everybody's favorite food is put on there. And we see like a giant purple cake, the escargot, all kinds of different food. Uh, so in the 5th month, Garang is now assigned to level 6, moving up in the world. His new cellmate, Baharat, is attempting to climb to the levels above. And I just love this guy. He, first off, the actor just puts everything into it. He's amazing. And the lighting in it was so beautiful. I just felt like his skin had like a very beautiful, like purpley kind of tone to it in this movie. Like it just was really gorgeous. He's kind of like zealous, but just he's very earnest. His item is a rope. And so he's calling up to the people at level 5. He's like, please, like, God has sent me on a mission. He said that you guys are going to help me get up there. It turns out the people above him are a couple and they're kind of talking. They're so clearly taunting this guy from the get. Like they're like, oh, wow, okay. And what exactly were God's words, And they're like, okay, well, throw up the rope. We'll get you up here. And Baharat's like, oh, it's my day. I'm getting up there. So he starts to climb up. And as he's about to reach the top, then the woman turns and literally just shits in his face. And he loses the rope. He almost falls down, but Garang grabs him before he can. And he's just so like, she shit in my face. And they're just laughing at him. Then they hear them having sex at one point. It's just horrible. And so he's pretty down in the dumps after that. So Garang, he's been trying to count the time to see how many levels there are, and he thinks there's about 250. So he has this plan with Baharat. He sits down next to him and he's like, listen, let's ride the platform down and then we'll ration the food, and that will show, the people above that, we'll break the system. And Baharat's kind of like, nah, going down is so crazy. Like, we're on level 6. Like, I'll just try to get up another time. But he's like, no, like, come on, man. Like, you and I will make weapons. We'll stand there and we'll do this. And he's like, okay. And so they get their weapons, like they break off rods from the bed. And so they go down and they decide that for the first 50 levels, they will not let anybody get the food. And which is kind of tough for Baharat because on the second level, or the level 7, these guys are apparently like Baharat's friends, which I love the lore we get from going to all these levels. Like we meet all these characters. So there is still some camaraderie here. Like, and the guys are immediately like, well, dude, Baharat, like, what are you're going to do us like this? Like we just made it to level 7 and, we almost died down there. Now you're going to deny us food. And Garang's point is, you ate yesterday, you'll eat tomorrow. The people downstairs have not eaten and who knows, how long. So, but that's still kind of not working. So Baharat's like, then they're like, okay, well, we'll just use violence then. And so they will just hit anybody in the head with a pole if they try to eat the food for the first 50 levels. And so going down, And they're like, their first thing is they'll just start, like, Baharat will just start yelling, like, get back in the corner, don't even look at the platform, you know? But then they see another prisoner that Baharat knows, Signor Brombang, who is this elderly man in a wheelchair who recognizes him. And, you know, Goreng's like, well, who is this guy? And he's like, he's a really wise man. And um, the Mr. Brownbang says, you know, you're being way too aggressive. Like, yes, like this is a good mission, but you need to conduct yourselves, you know, in like an educated and calm manner. And so he's like, you know, you guys having feeding everybody, that doesn't send a message. You need to leave like a beautiful dish untouched. And so they decide to keep this panna cotta untouched. And right before this, we see like a little moment where it's like only silent, and we're seeing the chefs, and somebody has found a hair in the panna cotta, and so the cook is like yelling at all the other cooks, and so he gathers all these people to try to see whose head like the hair came from. And I read a very interesting theory that I really liked about this. There's an idea that this is a flash forward instead of a flashback, which I thought was
Oh.
kind of dark to
Oh.
imagine. Yeah, of it being like, why was this untouched? It's because there's a
Uh-huh.
hair in
Hair
it,
in it.
which would be so depressing if
Oh
true.
my
Um,
gosh.
but so they continue to descend. Things just get rough. Like some people are refusing to cooperate, so they're getting hit in the head. And they eventually encounter Mihadu, who's being attacked, and they try to save her, but she's killed by this giant dude who just stabs her to death, grabs the samurai plus and just stabs her. And they are also both severely injured. There's a guy whose special item was a katana, and so he slices Baharat, and Goreng's like almost down for the count, but they have like a little lid on the panna cotta, and Baharat just kind of keeps saying to himself, like, the panna cotta's the message, the panna cotta's the message. Like they're like close to death now. And so they continue to descend. And I mean, they're passing by charred bodies, so people who must not have followed the rules. And they realize that there's more
Mm.
levels than 250, because anytime everybody's dead on a level, the platform just keeps going, which I am like, I don't know how that works. Because I do like the theory that they don't know what's going down on there at all. So I'm like, well, how would they know to stop? But maybe there has to be a certain level of body heat or something in the cells or something. I don't know. We this is all obviously a metaphor, so there's not really like logic or science, but they keep going. So now they go down to level 333, which I guess is supposed to be like half of
Six,
666.
six. Yeah.
Which I'm like, I guess they were like, well, 666, that'd be too many levels. So we'll just leave it at 333. So Goreng notices a child, and that turns out to be Mihadu's daughter. Now, this also, I think all of this is not real, because she's, first off, how did Mihadu never find her? And then she looks completely untouched. Like she's like a beautiful, pristine, you know, child. With the depravity we have just seen, I do not believe, you know, a child's getting out of there unscathed. But, you know, they notice this child, and so they get off the platform with Baharat. The platform continues downward, but even though they still have the panna cotta, they don't heat up or chill. So the child is obviously hungry. So even though Baharat is like, you know, firmly clutching it, they decide to give. It's a really cute cut, because Goreng's like, we got, you know, give the kid the panna cotta, and Baharat's like, no, we can't, and then it just cuts to the girl just absolutely devouring the panna cotta, and they're both just like, okay, all right. And so then Goreng dreams of all these crazy things. At one point, Imagwiri is saying Ramses is the Messiah, or Ramses is the message, or something.
Message. Yeah.
Yeah, but he dreams of Baharat telling him the girl is the message. So then he wakens to find that Baharat has bled to death. So the child and Garang descend on the platform the next day with like Garang sitting up and the child like you know, with her head in his lap as he's like brushing her hair and stuff. And so now at the bottom of the dark pit, he hallucinates Trimagasi, who tells him that the journey's over. He says that the message requires no bearer. Basically, you know, Garang's dying. And so Garang gets off the platform, the two walk away, and then the child ascends. So now I love this theory that the Panna Cotta was the message. It got all the way up there, and they were like, why was it untouched? It's because a hair got in it, one of you's, you know, and they couldn't find whose hair it belonged to because it belonged to a prisoner. Which would be so dark, you know, that it, you know, it being like, well, actually nothing happened because they're not even paying attention, you know, to the prisoners.
I mean, it was a pretty cockeyed plan, honestly.
Yeah.
to begin with. Like, they're going to understand that what we're doing with this Panna Cotta, you know, in the first place. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny in a very dark way.
I think it would be better if at the end they had that, like, because I think, you know, I didn't think of that until I read a comment on Reddit, but I think that would be such a perfect end to the movie, which is like, this is never, there was no like beating the system, you know, like nobody in the tower gets out, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like they probably
but you
die.
Have to have, but you have to have hope, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. The symbolism here is really difficult for me. I'm just like having a hard time with, you know, the symbolism of the child. And was she Miharu's daughter? I mean, she's Asian, so it's all the lore is always, it's all mixed up. So
yeah, and this idea that, you know, there's a little girl that, you know, goes all the way up to the top. It's like, which I guess it being like children are the future, like help our children, you know, somebody on Reddit, was like, children's futures are one thing that can get a lot of people to stop and think. And I'm like, not quite true. Like,
not
I mean,
really.
a nice thought, but
Sandy Hook didn't do shit. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've not
really
seen it in
that.
practice currently. Yeah.
Nice thought though.
Yeah, very very sweet idea. I from all the people who deny climate change fervently, like, oh my god, little tidbit. I had this one construction class where part of it was we had to interview this local, you know, bunch of people to try to get their ideas of what they would like to see, and then we would design something for this like garden path. And this old ass woman I was talking to goes on a rant to me about wind turbines and how they ruin the view and all this stuff. And I was like, counterpoint, I was like, well, you know, they do help the environment. And she literally was like, I don't care. They ruin my view. So like, these bitches don't care about shit. And then I was like, you know, what kind of pathway would you like? And she was only mentioning things that were not ADA accessible. And I was like, what about something like this? That way people in wheelchairs, she was like, then they just shouldn't go on the path. It was like this woman was scripted, but no, I think she was just a demented old bitch. Like, but yeah, so yeah, people don't care. So here's some trivia. That's not true. It's not true. Some people do. Some people don't. Here's some trivia. The concrete prison cells were built for the production in a Red Cross facility in a port in Bilbao. The director asked for cells that looked economical, robust, and impregnable. I think they succeeded. And this emphasized a sense of architectural and engineering proportion. Only 2 tiers of concrete cells were built. The appearance of many tiers of cells extending above and below each cell, visible from the hole in the center of each cell, was added in post-production using visual effects, which I feel like is pretty obvious when you watch it. Tell. But yeah, but I you know, I like movies like this where it does feel economical the entire movie, you know. But I feel like what stands out, like, okay, not to rag on stop motion once more, but
Go
It's going to be
ahead.
my segment in every single episode now. But see, now here's a movie where with like, you know, concrete cells being kind of one of the most boring things you could ever look at. I never once was bored in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
never for a second. You know, the performances, the writing, and just the intrigue. And even they still made use of the red lighting and whatnot. I thought the red lighting for the hallucinations was very interesting. So it can be done. That's all I'm saying. The director acknowledges the film can be difficult to watch, but he says the purpose of this approach is to generate discussion and debate by viewers about the political messages, which I think he did a good job of. When asked about the film's brutal violence and cannibalism, the director explained that the prison is a reflection of our society, so it couldn't hide the violence. It had to show how we rip each other apart. Which, yeah, I feel like you can't tell this kind of story without. I mean, the whole point is that what would you do in such a situation? You know, like we can all say sitting comfortably and fed that we would not cannibalize our cellmates, but you know, we quite literally, and hopefully we'll never be in such a situation. But you know, the idea being that there's a great line in Sweeney Todd. Kind of the whole idea of Sweeney Todd is like that the way society is run turns people, you know, into monsters. So Sweeney says in one of the first songs, he's like, he fucking hates London and he's like turning beauty into filth and greed, which I like that message. Like, I don't think anybody comes out being like, I'm going to murder today. Like, I think we find the root of the issue by thinking a little bit harder about it than that. The film uses two actors cast against type, Ivan Masagwe and Antonia San Juan, both of whom are known for their comedic roles. The pair were chosen to lighten the film's weighty subject by adding humor, irony, and surrealism. The film was shot chronologically as the main actor Ivan had to lose 12 kilograms, 26 pounds, over the 6-week shoot in order to display his character's physical deterioration. I didn't really catch that, but like, I didn't realize he had lost so much weight.
Yeah, there's I don't know exactly what scene it is, but there's a definite turning point where, you know, his cheeks are sunken. I mean, he's not a big guy to start with. And so, yeah, it's really noticeable by the end.
I think the makeup is also really good. Like, there's one scene where his face looks so blotchy, you know, and just unhealthy. And like, you can tell it's makeup, but it never, it does a good job, I think.
So this is our friend.
Devin! We love Devin. Yeah. Well, what does Devin have to say about it? Devin gave it 3.5 stars. Plays like the unholy offspring of Snowpiercer and the Denis Villeneuve short film Next Floor. A downright visceral, gory thing, but it's held together by compelling set and sound design, as well as charismatic lead in Ivan Masagwe. I agree, Devin. That was a good take. Thank you, Devin.
Thanks,
and
Devin.
I hope in the future we have more What Does Devin Have to Say About It? Shout out to Devin. Mara gave it 5 stars. Really need to know the story behind the guy who chose a surfboard as his one item. Oh, yeah, there's a great scene where Baharat tells this guy, yeah, that's right, hide behind your fucking surfboard. That made me laugh out loud. Lol Piek gave it 5 stars. It's nasty, and I love it. Wedding Veil Fan gave it 5 stars. You know when you put on a movie for the background so you can be on your phone at the same time? Didn't look at my phone once.
That happened to me. I was going to take notes the first time I watched it, and I couldn't.
Yeah, you just like stand there and watch. Like, Luffy at one point was yelling to be played with, so I like stood behind the couch and watched as I played with him because, yeah, it's super compelling. Ekaterina Mativi gave it a 0.5 star. My sister made me watch it. Gets a 0.5 because I was so disturbed that every time the cover popped up on Netflix, I had to close my eyes and scroll past it. Poor Katerina. I don't think
Aw.
she should have watched. This film's not for everyone.
No.
Oh boy, we get two ass ones.
I know.
Charlie gave it a half star. Holy cow, this sucked ass. Amara gave it a half star. This shit was so ass, bro. I love the crying emoji, like, and the praying, like, please help me. How would we rate it? Panna cotta?
Oh, yeah.
I think I'll give it 4 panna cottas.
I was thinking 4.25.
Okay.
I think
Four-
it's pretty darn good.
4 and a stray hair who came from someone.
Oh.
What have we learned?
Capitalism sucks.
Yeah, I do think this movie would be great if you like just wanted to like turn to your friends and be like, and what did you think?
Yeah.
Like it does it is one of those, it's basically like Trolley Problem the movie, I feel like.
Yeah, I would love to show this to my students. It is pretty violent.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Yeah. So, but I might offer it. I'm teaching ethics this summer. I might offer it as like, an option if somebody wants to watch it on their own.
I feel
Definitely.
like you could cut out Trimagasi's parts and like,
Uh-huh.
be like, oh, do you agree with what he said? Like, should he, I guess you can't show him like pissing, but be like, does it make sense why he, said this, Because I feel like
Yeah.
his stuff is the most like, he says it with such confidence that, you have to wonder if he's like right or not, or why he's, that's why his parts are my fave.
Yeah.
Would we watch it again? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I need I took the years in between last time seeing it. That was a good amount of time. So in that amount of time. Yeah. In 6 years, I think I'll watch it again. My favorite scene would just be, I mean, I do love the scene with Baharat where he gets shit on. Like, I thought that was pretty great. Quite literally it being like, no, nobody above you is ever going to help you down below. And I do love that scene of the chef being like without words, you can tell what's going on, where he's getting all the chefs to line up and take their hats off and stuff. I thought that was really well done.
I like it when Miharu, it looks like she's going to be attacked and she's going to be the victim, and then she like kills those two dudes and like
that was
gets right
awesome.
back on the platform. That was a nice fake out.
Now here's a plot hole. You'd think that Goreng then would know that if it goes to a floor where people are dead, it just goes right down, because he spent a whole month with people one floor below him being dead. Unless one of them was alive.
One of them might have survived. We only saw one body.
That's true. Okay. That can be explained. Who wins the You Fool Award? I'm going to say Goreng for going there.
Yeah, or Imogwiri.
But at least she was like, I'm dead anyway,
That's
like,
true.
The fact that he was going to get a degree means he thinks he's making it out of here.
Yeah, and he went in. He went in to quit smoking.
There's better ways.
6 months, I can live out 6 months and I'll come out, smoke free, and I'll have read Don Quixote. What a naive little baby.
Yeah. Like everybody laughing at him being like, bro, you brought a book. He deserved it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Mac, for having this conversation today about Ready or Not and the platform.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, WoHos, for joining us and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us, truly. Next time, we will be looking at horror in the old folks' home films with Next of Kin and The Rule of Jenny Penn. Remember, WoHos, we love you, and don't go into the basement.
Yay, we did it.
We did it.